If you use ChatGPT for language learning, following advices from the internet, there is a high chance you are doing it wrong. Because there are a lot of recommendations that sound smart, but in the reality completely broken from educational perspective. And people following them don't get results they expect. I spent the last 18 years teaching, creating courses and building educational programs. These days I run a tech company that helps integrate AI into different processes, including education. So today we will take 4 the most popular language learning tips. We will look at why they sound great, when they fail in real life, and the most important, how to fix them. And we start with the first advice: practice speaking with ChatGPT. This one I see out there a lot, especially after ChatGPT released their voice mode in 2024. So people see ChatGPT now as a 24/7 speaking partner. And the idea is that you can open voice mode anytime. You can have this a little bit of speaking practice, and then theoretically your speaking will improve during time. So this is how it looks for the majority of people out there. Hi Chat, I want to practice German speaking with you.
Gerne. Wir können einfach drauf losreden. Gibt es ein bestimmtes Thema, das dich interessiert, oder soll ich einfach mal eine Frage stellen?
Stelle eine Frage.
Alles klar. Was hast du denn heute bisher so gemacht? Erzähl mir von deinem Tag.
Am Morgen war ich im Fitnessstudio und jetzt mache ich ein Video.
Klingt produktiv. Was für ein Video nimmst du denn gerade auf oder bereitest du es vor?
So this is the idea. Well, why does it sound smart? So first, ChatGPT is always available and always in your pocket. And since you do something actively, regardless how useful it is, it feels like a study. The most important part here that it lowers social pressure and anxiety, because like for me, it's definitely like that. It's much easier to talk to my phone than to some German lady in a park. Of course, it's cheaper and easier than finding a speaking partner on the internet or in a speaking club. And like with any activity, it does create this routine because it's just 15 minutes per day, or while you are walking, you can talk to ChatGPT. So sounds nice. And considering all of that, it's clear why this is #1 language learning tip when it comes to AI. But in the reality, people try this 1 or 2 times. Maybe they do this regularly, but at some point they just give up on that because they don't see any progress. And that's why. First of all, open-ended chatting has nothing to do with real language learning practice. If you want to practice speaking, it should be either guided or at least put into some structure. For example, there is a blog from Duolingo where they explain how speaking practice should be put around some scenario, should be aligned with users' language level, and should have some particular objective. So it is a little bit more complex than just open voice mode and talk. Second reason it breaks: positive experience doesn't mean you're actually learning something. There was a study that confirmed that while students had positive experience with a chatbot, there were no significant differences in learning. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that speaking with AI is useless. It just means that it feels good is not enough to measure the progress. And as an addition to that, people feel progress and excitement because of novelty. Or to put it simply, AI is cool. I have been working with different models every day since more than 2 years, and sometimes it still feels like magic. Sometimes result looks so good so you don't question the quality. So the way to fix this approach is to stop using ChatGPT as a vague conversational partner and start practicing real scenarios with them. Here is the exact plan. You pick one real life scenario, for example, booking an appointment or ordering food. Then explicitly communicate your language level. For example, I'm A2 German. Then you can also set some specific learning targets. For example, I want to practice past tense. It's not mandatory, it's just if you have something in mind. After that, define rules and conditions. For example, do not interrupt me or do not correct me during conversation. And in the end, you can ask for a feedback or ask to highlight some most critical mistakes. Hi, I want to practice German with you. You are a receptionist at doctor's office in Germany. I'm learning German at A2 level. Please speak only in simple German. I want to practice booking an appointment. Ask me questions one by one like it's a real phone call and do not correct me during the conversation.
Alles klar, ich bin die Rezeptionistin. Fangen wir an. Wie ist Ihr Name bitte?
Mein Name ist Ivan Afonchenko.
Danke, Herr Afonchenko. Für welchen Tag möchten Sie den Termin?
Ich möchte gerne einen Termin am Montag.
In Ordnung. Und zu welcher Uhrzeit am Montag passt es Ihnen am besten?
Vormittags.
Alles klar. Ich habe Montag um 14 Uhr notiert. Was ist der Grund für Ihren Termin?
Ich habe starke Kopfschmerzen.
Verstanden. Dann habe ich Ihren Termin eingetragen. Brauchen Sie noch etwas oder war das alles?
Das wäre alles. Dankeschön.
Alles klar, dann ist der Termin bestätigt. Ich wünsche Ihnen gute Besserung. Bis bald.
So now, instead of some random conversation, we can have some particular exercise around some topic or to practice some specific grammatical rule. Keep in mind though that these voice models, they are not perfect, especially for non-English languages. They sometimes recognize words wrong, and to be honest, you still cannot compare this to real conversation with a real person. But as another exercise in your language learning tool belt, why not? Now moving to the second one, generate tons of flashcards with AI. This one is about optimization and efficiency. You have a list of words or some text, you send it to AI and you ask to generate flashcards. And it does make sense on the first glance. Yes, it saves you time on this monotonous work. It lets you cover a lot of material very quickly. And it's also scalable. So for you, there is no big difference between creating 10 cards and 100 cards. But there is a big problem with this approach, because if you automate the entire process, you are stealing from yourself. Creating a flashcard is an educational activity by itself. You spend time searching for a word, for transcription, for meaning, for picture, and it already lays a good foundation for the upcoming drilling process. There are even researches showing that user-generated flashcards outperformed pre-created flashcards across multiple experiments. So when ChatGPT does all selecting and phrasing for you, you may save time, but you lose some of the learning that happens during creation. Another problem here is that bigger amount of flashcard doesn't actually mean better learning. I'm a huge fan of flashcards, and in my experience, when you have endless stack of cards that you cannot cover within one session, this whole idea of spaced repetition system kind of fails. What to do instead? Well, the best way would be to allocate 1 hour in your schedule and do everything manually. But if you still want to automate some parts of the process with AI, use it only for drafting and in a small batch. So first of all, pick a source. Do not ask ChatGPT to give you 100 words. Take a small text or dialogue and work with that. It will also add additional connections because of context. Then go with a small size. Aim to 8 to 12 new cards. The best way of doing it, you generate more and then remove what's irrelevant. The only thing that AI should help you with to avoid losing this learning experience is to search for information. So ask it to find necessary information for you. But once you get it, format it yourself. Pick things you want to have on your flashcard and format it in a way it will be convenient during flashcard creation process. And once you have all source materials ready, you need to once more validate it with AI. Ask it to look for mistakes, because sometimes AI is still making mistakes regardless what kind of model are you using. So for example, here I have a short text, it's an email, and I asked ChatGPT, here is text in German, create flashcard content for words from this text, word, different forms, IPA, meaning in German, and return it in form of a table. I do not put any very strict conditions there because I want ChatGPT to be a bit more creative, so I would have more things to format and refine after it produces it. Now I send it, and it starts printing me the table. Now we have a table, and I should go through all words, pick words that I don't know from this text, and create cards with them. And after that, do not use any import function, create cards manually. You can check one of my old videos where I show how to create cards in Anki. I myself right now use the app Bits. It's very good and minimalistic, so if you want to, you can try it as well. And we go to advice number 3, use AI instead of teacher or course. A very popular narrative usually leveraging this price topic, like no need for an expensive tutor or class. And again, without going into details, it sounds valid. ChatGPT is really cheaper than any class or lesson with a real teacher. It also feels personalized and adaptive on the level teacher cannot offer when there are 10 people in the room. And of course, it's extremely convenient, no scheduling, no commuting, no waiting. And while this sounds like a future, this is just another trap people are falling into. Language learning without guidance is less effective. Although it is possible, and there are some people who learn the language by themselves without any proper plan, without milestones, without feedback, but it takes much longer. And if we are talking about AI, there was a recent study in 2026 that confirmed ChatGPT was the most efficient when integrated into a guided learning environment. Particularly in this study, they researched several groups. One of them didn't use ChatGPT at all, one of them was using it in a class, and one of them was using it at home after the class. And the third group showed the best results. And language learning is not about information, it's about skill. So if I will now watch a video with all German grammar, I will not become fluent. Once you remove course or teacher from the process, the learner now has to choose the sequence, decide what to focus on, notice what is missing, trying to get feedback and then judge if this feedback is trustworthy or not. So it's actually pretty hard. So what to do instead? Use AI as a support layer around real language learning structure. I have a video of how I have done it with my current intensive course, but here is the general approach. Keep a fixed backbone of your learning. It can be class, it can be tutor, it can be book, or in the worst case, it can be some clear week-by-week plan. Use AI between lessons, not instead of lesson. Good uses reviews, additional exercise, vocabulary drills, summaries, and always stay inside your language level or topic. You start learning some specific thing in a class, and then with AI, you expand and cover all related topics around it. And one more time, verify explanations that AI gives you. This matters because even positive studies around using AI in language learning process shows that there are some mistakes and inconsistencies. So the rule of thumb here, ChatGPT is an accelerator and not the foundation of your language learning. Once again, check my video. Basically, my idea is that I take a photo with my smartphone of grammatical sections in my book, and then I send it to ChatGPT and I ask it to practice these grammatical topics with me. I do it once a week on Sundays before the new week on my courses started. And now number 4, ask AI to explain every mistake. This one is actually an approach that I was using myself and I even recommended it to other people. I'm very sorry. The idea is that you write a text or do an exercise and then ask ChatGPT to explain every mistake. And to me, it sounded completely okay, because first of all, you have an immediate feedback, and it's even personalized because it's not just ChatGPT, it's my ChatGPT, it knows me. It also feels like getting an overview of all of your language learning problems so you could spot a pattern. And it also felt like a lot of educational material I can use later for practicing or creating exercises. And for me, more is always better than less. Until I realized that it's not that simple. I started diving deeper into different types of feedback in the educational process, and there is a lot of variety there. So you have comprehensive feedback, you have indirect feedback, you have immediate feedback, you have delayed feedback, and more and more and more. So this idea of explain me all of my mistakes, first, is not the only one. Second, by far not the best one. Another problem that AI explanations is still not 100% reliable. Yes, models are getting better, but still there are some mistakes and inconsistencies. And when you have 20 items on your list, it's very hard to spot a problem there or verify every single piece of feedback. So the solution here looks quite obvious. You need to limit the amount of feedback you receive to increase quality. So first of all, you need to set a limit, like what 3 most critical mistakes I've made. Then ask for a brief explanation. At this point, you need to just see the problem and not to have the whole lecture about grammatical rule. And then you ask follow-up questions regarding the topic. Resolve the problems immediately and double-check answers. Literally just ask ChatGPT, hey, make sure that your last statement is correct. And do not save this feedback and think that you will handle it later. It's better to fix 3 mistakes right now than 20 mistakes never. So here, for example, I wrote a text, what 3 most critical mistakes I've made. For each mistake, give me 1 to sentence explanation. And here is my text. I wrote some email to my friend. Let's see. And here it gave me 3 most critical mistakes. And yeah, for example, word order with verbs, it's quite critical. And a really short explanation here. But I still want to ask it, double check your feedback. Make sure everything is correct. And now, yes, it says that feedback was correct, but it made it a little bit more precise. So now we fixed 4 the most popular recommendations and made them work. Now go and watch my video about integrating ChatGPT with a real language course. Thank you very much and see you later.